So today our video will be on modifications of the flower. Means whatever form of modification the flower it brings about in its own structure to help in the process of the pollination is what will be discussed here. Now, first and foremost, the type of pollination we know are of two, which is self-pollination and the cross-pollination. Now, we have to keep in mind in the self-pollination there is like two particular process happens. Means first one is the autogamy method in which we find that the flower is fertilizing its own stigma. Means the actually the pollen, it transfer of the pollen takes place from the anther of the flower and it's going to the stigma of the same flower. So if that happens, then we call that an autogamous method. The geitonogamy method is actually in which the flower, the pollen from the anther of one flower, it pollinates the stigma of another flower but within the same plant. So in that case, again, it is a type of self pollination. Yes, this method sometimes somewhere it will be represented as cross pollination method also, because the involvement of two different flowers are there. So there was like in some book it is also mentioned as a cross pollination method, but the technical term for this will be the geitonogamy method, in which the flower is actually arising from both, like both the flowers are arising from the same plant, but the pollination is taking place between two different flowers. That is the thing. Cross pollination is a completely different process. It's called the xenogamy method, in which the pollination takes place between two different plants. Means plant, those flowers involved in the process of the pollination are in completely two different plants. So that method will be called the xenogamy method or the cross pollination method. So in the process of cross pollination, definitely there will be involvement of some sort of like agents that will be there. It was discussed in the previous video. There are several kinds of agents are there, and for exploiting those agents or for exploiting all of that, the flower actually bring about some modifications in its structure. So we will be discussing about that. But let's keep in mind that whenever we are talking about the process of self pollination and cross pollination, a primary objective of that thing is to bring about the variation, because cross pollination, since the involvement of two different sorry for the noise. So in the case of cross pollination, the chances of variation is actually very high, because the individuals are like two different plant, isn't it? So definitely there will be like various kinds of characters going to intermix, and that's why the chances of variation are definitely going to be high in the case of cross pollination. Whereas self pollination, since it is originating from the same plant, there are lesser variations that will be observed in those cases. So definitely for that particular point in mind, a cross pollination method will be considered as more suitable. But even after that, uh, like the plant will undergo self pollination in some case and the plant will undergo cross pollination in some case. So majorly it depends on the type of flower that is actually there. So for that, we call the flower type are of two, which is first one the clistogamous type of flower, in which we find that usually the flowers are quite close. Means well, yeah, if we have to present it like that way, then it will be wrong, because the flower is definitely going to bloom, it's definitely going to open up into a structure. Usually they do open up, but actually the maturation of the reproductive part, it takes place when the flower is in the bud type of state. Means you can see the flowers in both the pictures here, that they are quite like closed and they are in the bud like stage. It's not open yet, it has not expressed itself, it has not bloomed properly. But what actually will happen is inside both the reproductive rules, the pistil and that of the stamen, both of them are going to get matured and is going to undergo pollination within. So that means here there is a very higher chance of self pollination that will be observed. So this is like for those plant who wants to go for self pollination method most of the time. But for those plant who actually want to go for cross pollination method, they actually will have a different kind of arrangement which we are quite familiar with, which is this, that the flower is completely bloom, and then this two reproductive part is actually in proper maturation and all. So that cases they are going to find that these flowers are completely bloom like that. But there is a higher chance of cross pollination in this particular type of flower than that of the previous one, because this flower, it will actually have a higher chance of dispersal or of their pollen from this flower to a different flower, or even like involvement of any kind of organisms, like other organisms like animals and all, to come here and meet come here to sit on the surface and then carry the pollen to somewhere else. So for those cases, like there's a higher chance there in this particular type of flower, the chasmogamus type. But the process of pollination can be controlled in another method, in which like this flower can mature the reproductive part in different time span. Means it is possible that the anther will actually mature earlier than that of the pistil. So if that happens, or we can say the stigma also, right? So if that happens, then the flower is actually behaving like a male flower in the earlier part of its life, whereas later it will actually, like when the dispersal of the pollen will take place, because after maturation of the anther, the pollen is definitely going to get dispersed. So at that time, since the stigma is not matured, it is not going to accept any of those pollen, because it is not ready for any of those process, so it will not do that. So in those cases, there is a greater chance of cross pollination that exists. But later on, when the stigma has matured, maybe the pollen has already degraded, or maybe it has got transformed, or something like that. So in those cases, the flower is now unable to self pollinate. That is actually one method by which it actually stops them. Even there are cases, even there are cases where we find that the stigma actually matures quite well, whereas the stamen not at all. Means the female part of the flower is actually maturing properly, and the male part remains rudimentary. In those cases, the flower is behaving like a female flower, though it is a bisexual type, but it is a female flower now, behaving like a female flower. That way also it can actually regulate the process of self pollination. That is something that is just wait a second, let me sorry, I have no editor with me in the video, that's why I cannot edit the sound at all. So I'm very much sorry about all the background noises you're listening here. Let's come back to the topic. So next video, next slide will be of that of directly onto the process of agents of pollination. For that, whatever changes they do. So first and foremost, we find that the flowers are actually like, in the case of anemophilia, as we know, it is going to exploit the wind. So flowers are going to disperse the pollen out in the wind, and then it will be carried by the wind to a flower which is like female, and it will be like that way the transfer actually takes place. So for that, it's always going to find that the anther is going to be a versatile one. Means where it will be long, it will be it will disperse or burst open the like all the pollens outward, and the pollen are capable of making the flight, because either they are designed such a way, may have some sort of extension which will allow it to glide through the wind, or maybe it will have some sort of dry desiccated nature kind of thing, by which they have a much more tendency of dispersal and being blown to the like by the wind and something like that. So all those kinds of modifications will be found in this particular type of pollens and of that of flower. So here is the image right here. You can see where the image is of a maize plant. So this maize plant is actually producing this particular flower, where the pollens are getting dispersed right here on the top. See right there, all the pollens are getting dispersed from there in the top, and definitely the wind is going to carry all of that. Now the tassels releasing all these pollens, it will be dispersed, and then there will be some sort of female plant, or maybe the same plant may be carrying that. The female flower is going to have these elongated styles right there. It's a hair like structure. It's comparatively like in which where the these dispersed pollen grains, they will come and will hit those structure. Then from there the pollination will actually occur. Even the fertilization will take place after that. So this is how the anemophily method is maintained. You can see the flower arrangement is something like that. It's hanging, it's wide, it's like a big inflorescence, a bunch of flowers together, but all of them work together and finally help in the dispersal. And here is an image of that dispersal. You can see that a huge bunch of cloud like shape has formed because of it. It's all like induced by the human, means because the human actually touched the flower, or we patted the flower in those cases. Like this is a pinus plant, so if you go and pat the flower, you're going to find that the dispersal of the pollen will take place with a vigorous it seems like a burst of a cloud that is taking place from that particular place, or maybe smoke coming out, something like that. So those are nothing but the pollens, a tremendously large number of pollens. Because yes, the chances of the pollination has to be increased by dispersing a very large amount of pollen, because it's completely a process which dependent on the like random current of the wind, isn't it? So the chances of pollination, to increase it, a huge number of pollens will be dispersed. Nextly, the hydrophily method, in which aquatic plants are definitely going to be involved, like where the aquatic plants, they produces all these pollens and from the stamen. Like for that, there are usually like male and female flowers are usually different. So what we're going to find is that they are going to be released in the water, and I don't have a very good picture of that dispersal technique and all. So but usually it is like being carried out from one or from the male plant, and is going to go and going to meet the female plant. Like the styles are extended, definitely the styles and stigma is quite extended, and it's quite like sticky, so that it allow the those like pollens to come and adhere to it. So that's why it is made such a way. But usually they are kept quite close to each other, they hang quite close to each other to increase the efficiency of the transfer. Some plants, they do bear both the male and the female plant in them, and that's why like the dispersal is comparatively quite easier. But always the case will be that the female flower is going to be on the downstream of the current, because the pollen is liberated by the male flower is going to go downstream only with the flow of water, and is going to be accepted by the female right there in the downstream. Now, for the entomophily method, yes, it is completely dependent on the sweet fragrance that the flower it produce, the vibrant color that the flower disperse. So definitely we are going to find that it is a chasmogamous type of flower with a sweet fragrance, sweet like vibrant colors, shapes and forms, and all of that will actually trigger the insect to come close to it. And yes, there will be involvement of nectar also there. Nectar is actually a small exudate, that like a sweet exudate that actually the flower produces at the base of the entire structure. And it is usually that the insects are drawn towards it, so it will just simply come and sit on the surface. They go and try to fetch this nectar from the bottom, and what will happen is the pollen is going to get dispersed right there. Usually the method is that the pollens means all the stamens are actually kept around the entire flower, the stigma at the dead center with extended stigma, and the pollens are actually quite down below. I mean the anthers are quite down below, and that way this particular like insects, they have a higher tendency to go and like stick to the pollen first, means they stick to those anthers first, where the pollen will get dispersed on their body. Well, that is a method where the color and all these things will be exploited. Not only that, the flowers are well known to trick the animal by behaving like another insect. Like you can see here is a type of orchid which is whose flower is actually it gives the shape of that of, you can say, a moth, isn't it? It looks like a moth. So a male moth will actually get attracted towards it and will come and try to like simply like to try to mate with the flower, but we'll find it's actually a flower, not not a female. So it will be like completely fooled, but that will actually help this flower for the process of pollination, because it will be repeated, and the male flower, male those that particular moth is going to come and sit with this like on the flower every time. So from one particular flower to another flower, the pollen will get dispersed. So that is a very unique method and very like I will say an awesome method for like exploited by the flowers to actually help in the process of their pollination. Right. Now, this particular tree is actually found in the like the Africa. Okay, and it's quite famous tree. It's quite like it's called the Adansonia or the baobab in their own language. So this particular tree, it's like an ancient tree. It's quite unique. It's quite like you can see this giant Adansonia. It's like extended, like it's a wide trunk extended straight up into the like erect, completely erect and huge tall tree where at the very tip we find all the foliage is present, unique structure. And yes, it is completely like found in the African continent only. And we are going to find that this particular uh, plant, it actually make use of bat instead of any other animal. So what happened is its flower is arranged such a way that the bat is actually attracted towards this flower. It comes and try to feed on the like all the like stamens that are there, or even the like middle part. It is a thick flesh. It actually tries to eat those part because it gives away a fruity kind of smell flavor, like you can say. And the bats are quite attracted towards it, due to which this flower is actually devoured by it, and while devouring it, the entire process of the pollination actually takes place, where the stigma, as you can see right here, this image, this is this like this the entire female part. So this one is extended outward completely, whereas the anther is actually towards the middle right there in this region. The stamens are all arranged, a cluster of them. And when the bat actually like feed on it, so it will be dispersed with the pollen. You can see it's getting dispersed with the pollen, isn't it? But then there is this stigma right there. The stigma is now getting like pollinated, not necessarily by the same flower, maybe from a different pollens from a different flower. So that way the chances of pollination is increased. That's why this is the like exploiting the bat for the process of pollination. Finally, let's talk about the flowers which have modified themselves to become to behave like a pitcher. Now, a pitcher or a tubular shaped flowers are as like the shape itself is like quite tubular, where all the pollens are actually the anthers will be found right around this area. So pollens will be dispersed the top region, whereas the stigma is bottom somewhere. Sometimes stigma is also erected upward. So what actually happen is the nectar which is present at the very base of it, right around this region. So the insect or even the birds, they actually try and fetch this nectar. While doing that, all the anther that are present here disperse the pollen onto their beak, onto their head. Like some flowers are quite long, quite tubular, like it can be like this much extended. So in those cases, like the entire face will go inside the flower, isn't it? So if that goes, the head region will get dispersed by the pollen. It will all get stuck there. And then when it reach the female flower, where the stigma is like extended towards this, that look like this much part. So all these pollens that are dispersed on the head region will get attached to it, and the process will take place. Here is a like cross section. It is made by simply dissecting the flower. That's why you can find that all the pollens have like dispersed outward like that. But it is not the normal thing. Okay, usually what happens is like the anthers are, it will be found right here, and it's like dispersing all of it. And this is the stigma, you can see right there. This flower actually has the stigma at the bottom, so anthers at the top. So all the anthers are getting dispersed, like pollens are getting dispersed from there right here on this region. So when the insect or maybe like the bird is trying to reach this nectar which is present at this bottom base, so it's going to get like you can say completely powdered with the pollen, and later on it will be helping in the process of the pollination. So that is all the different kind of modifications that the uh, that has been seen in the flower, which helps in the process of pollination.